What is going on, everybody? So today I want to talk about health anxiety and the fears of like the sudden death situations like heart attacks or strokes or cardiac arrest or something that happens fast versus like my fears of slower progressing diseases like things like cancer and things like that. Both very, very terrifying. I feared both, obviously, but I just wanted to kind of touch on the differences between those two fears in my life. Everybody's going to be different. And I want you guys to share what your worst fears are when it comes to your health anxiety down below. I think it's important to let everybody know and to share because it can make other people feel less alone. And I think that's the first step at overcoming health anxiety, is to not feel like you're losing your mind, that you don't feel like you're alone. So I kind of want to get into this video. Excited to talk about some of these things. So when my anxiety first started, guys, I thought I was having a heart attack, and that's what started the whole thing. My anxiety had been building. I wasn't living a great lifestyle. I was partying, drinking, smoking too much and everything like that. And I started to kind of be aware of my heartbeat. And all it took was like a 2-night bender with my friends partying and stuff to cause enough dehydration to get my heart palpitating pretty good. And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to die. And then all these other symptoms flooded me. First big panic attack lasted 6 hours. Jumped on Google, typed in all my symptoms, and then I thought I was going to have a heart attack. So that really was the start of something very, very vicious. Yes, health anxiety in general, but cardiophobia, heart anxiety, and so many of you that watch me struggle with this, and it is so crippling, fearing that you're going to die any minute, right? And we're going to talk about the other types of diseases and cancers in a minute. But to me personally, like dying suddenly or very, very quickly without having a chance to fight it or to get help, terrified the hell out of me. And you have to think about it, like, I'm not going to get to say goodbye to my friends or my family or my girlfriend at the time. I don't get to do any unfinished business. I don't get to make plans or arrangements. And yeah, I don't really have much of a chance to fight this, which is kind of funny when it comes to the heart attack side of things. If you look up statistics on people having a heart attack for the first time, I wish I would have known this stat back then. Maybe it would have helped. You know, the survival rate is somewhere around 90%. And of course, the younger you are, the higher the survival rate is. So that's pretty incredible right there. If I would have known that a long time ago, maybe that would have helped. But I thought heart attack at the time was like most likely going to die. So that got stuck in my subconscious. And then I got caught up in this cycle of checking my heart rate all throughout the day, checking my blood pressure, always monitoring how I felt. And then I started to get this chest pain that just never seemed to go away. If I was able to get sleep at night, I would get some relief, but within seconds to minutes of waking up, that chest pain would start to tighten up, and I was just convinced something was wrong with my heart. So I made a mistake, and I looked up videos of people dying of heart attacks, cardiac arrests, then became a whole separate thing. Like, is my heart just gonna stop? Or, you know, if it's beating really weird, am I gonna have a crazy arrhythmia that's gonna throw it off and I'm just gonna fall down dead? So I feared that a lot. Stroke is another thing. So a lot of these things came down to like circulatory type things. I was afraid of clotting anywhere in the body. So blood clots is another fear. Aneurysms, aortic or a brain aneurysm, hemorrhaging, an internal bleed, something that was going to cause me to die very, very quickly was definitely the most terrifying thing. And a lot of this came down to like, I'm not gonna be able to get to the hospital in time. I'm not gonna be able to get my phone out and call 911. This made me be extremely afraid of being by myself. And a lot of you can relate, guys, like being alone sometimes was hard because you wanted there to be somebody that could like help you. Going on long trips, I know a lot of you and a lot of people that I've talked to through coaching, when you're going on a trip, you're trying to figure out where the hospital is, how far is it from the hotel, just in case you have to go. Constant reassurance and trying to get testing done, which there's nothing wrong with that, but eventually, you know, I had to make a decision to let go of that. Fear of exercise it kept me in this cycle because I felt like I wasn't able to exercise. It was too much of a risk, right? I didn't want to risk dying or anything like that, so I put that off. Ultimately, that was the thing that helped me get past that. But sudden death was just a huge fear of mine because I just wouldn't be able to get help in time And this made it hard on everything. Like I didn't want to get my heart going by taking groceries in or standing up too fast, or just everything became pretty crippling because of my fear of like dying pretty fast or suddenly. Finally, I was able to get out of that stage. I was able to finally trust the doctors, trust the testing. So that's the first step. You need to get some reassurance, get a few different opinions if you need to, take it up to the specialist level. Those are the experts, and get whatever you're fearing, that's going to cause you to die suddenly. Get that checked out and try to get that reassurance. Don't expect the symptoms to go away after that. It helps. Now the rest of it is like you have to convince the subconscious what the doctor told you, right? You got to take what you've learned consciously and give it to the subconscious through your responses and your behaviors. So that has to change. Your lifestyle has to start changing. Exercise, guys, is one of the biggest ways to convince yourself that you're not going to die suddenly. I put that off for 2.5 years, and it was one of the worst mistakes that I ever made throughout my entire anxiety journey, was not trying to break through that barrier. But it's scary. It's easier said than done to do that. But once I did that, I was able to have constant evidence every day that I'm not dying and that I'm not going to suddenly die. And ultimately, that really, really helped me get past my fears of sudden death. Like, if I'm able to kick this workout in the butt, then later when I'm sitting on a couch, I'm not going to think that I'm going to have a massive heart attack and just die. That at least thought process helped me. I know some of you are like, well, you can still technically have a heart attack later. And I mean, I get all that. I understand that. But it helped me enough, right, to get me past that. And I know everybody's going to be different, but I wanted to share what helped me on that. But then once I got past that, I was not done with my health anxiety, because I still had a problem with catastrophizing and fearing whenever my symptoms would change. And sometimes, guys, these symptoms were not caused by anxiety. At this point, I really was not having panic attacks anymore. Once I finally, was able to convince myself and accept that I wasn't dying of heart problems or anything like that, the panic attacks really started to fade away. I still had a couple, throughout the rest of my journey, or a few or whatever, but they weren't as severe. And I kind of knew what it was, and I was able to kind of talk myself down and get out of it. But I started to fear different diseases and cancers that took longer to progress. So I went through so many different stages. I remember like fearing digestive cancer, because my digestive system was just like shit at the time. Literally like constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, pains. So I went through stages where I thought I had stomach cancer, colon cancer, pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, some other things, guys. I feared throat cancer. One time I got some weird cold, and it made me have a weird pain in my throat that was different than what I had felt before. For the next 2 or 3 weeks, once that pain, I had focused on that pain, it went from like the cold causing it to my mind sending signals in that area to keep the tension there. So the globus and then that weird pain stuck around for like 3 weeks. Unfortunately, I told my wife, because I had left that other relationship and I'd met a new, beautiful, amazing woman who I'm still with today and have 4 children with. But I told her, I was like, I think I'm gonna die of throat cancer. And I told her, like, poor woman, she started to cry. Like, I had like convinced her, like, you know what I mean? And every time I would go through each one of these cycles, I do the same thing. I look at the prognosis. What are my chances of overcoming this? What are the treatments? What are the best natural ways to handle this if I'm going to go that route? I start thinking about my funeral every freaking time. I have children at this point, 2 children at this point. Like, do I need to start making videos for them, like, so they can have them on Christmases and birthdays and graduations and big life events? What do I need to start keeping up with a journal, like, so that they can go through and read this stuff? I was just focused on the wrong thing, and every time I would have new symptoms, guys, I would ultimately think of cancer, and then I still didn't learn my lesson with the Googling from before. I would go right into looking up research and Googling. So I type in my symptoms. You're always going to see the worst stuff at the top. So this was definitely still like pretty crippling. Like, I was not, just in a different way. I did feel as though, like, I could prepare for it. I could, say goodbye to my family. I could make plans if I needed to. I could get an appointment set up for another 3 weeks, and then like I'll probably still be able to make it to that appointment and be able to at least fight it or treat it. So I felt like there was more hope with me fearing cancers and stuff like that, or at least that I had more time, that it kept me from panicking, and it made my overall health anxiety a little less crippling, a little bit more manageable, if that makes sense. For some of you, like, you feel like this part is worse for you than the other stuff. I get it. We're all different. I'm just sharing with you my thoughts and like how I felt whenever I was going through. I feared brain cancer. That ran in my family on my dad's side. So anytime I would have any weird thing going on with my head, I'd start to think, am I going to get this early? I went through the neurological disease stuff, like if I had twitching or a weird feeling or start thinking maybe MS, or, you know, if I had a tremor, maybe it's Parkinson's. So the second half, the last 2 to 2.5 years of my health anxiety journey was primarily going from cancer to cancer to cancer. And the last like year and a half, I was just convinced that I had some type of lymphoma because I had ear pressure and my lymph nodes over here were kind of messed up. I wonder why, because I would always push and prod on them. Don't do that. They're sensitive. They're going to swell very easily. And then that'll just stick around and just mess with your head. But had ear pressure over here and it just was relentless. And the best thing that I can tell you when it comes to these longer term like disease fears and stuff like that, yes, get some initial reassurance. Do not go to Google first thing when you feel something, guys, because you'll take something like a stomach ache. Like I had one time, I had a localized stomach ache, and I think it was just caused either from something I ate or something else. You know what I mean? Like something possibly real, you know what I mean? It wasn't bad, but it was just enough to annoy me, like a dull localized ache. So what did I do? This is where I messed up. I jumped on Google and typed in where I was feeling, and then colon cancer came up. And then I was just like obsessed with this for 3 months. And then guess what? Even though that pain probably wasn't even caused by anxiety, that pain never went away for 3 months. Okay, so the first step is to not Google and get all these ideas in your mind, and then to obsess about it, right? And then this is another thing. I would put off getting it checked out. If you have something that's new and it's scary, look, I get it. At some point, you're going to have to stop going. You're going to have to make that decision. But the smart thing for me to tell you guys is the faster that you can get that checked out and looked at, if you feel like you need to move past it, the better, right? Because it becomes such a strong signal to that area of your body whenever you're just, I don't know, what if? If you're not going to make a firm statement of acceptance, it's going to continue to send symptoms there. So you have to realize that. The faster that you get a little bit of initial reassurance, then you can be like, okay, all right, this makes sense. I have a pattern of this. I'm going to move on from this. The doctor said I'm good. And don't Google as well, okay? The Googling does so much damage. And then at the end, you have to make a choice to let go of control, accept I've done what I can do at this point. And that's how I eventually, the last stage of my health anxiety, I had to let go. I've been begging for CAT scans. I've been going to the ENTs for a year and a half. I was like, look, I've done everything I can do. I've done the smart thing. As long as I felt good about being smart about what I had done and tried to get reassurance and try to move on, then I'm just going to let go of this. And guess what? After 2 weeks, that symptom started to fade. And then pretty much within the next month or two, I was finally recovered. And then you have to have, I mean, to keep this thing away is a whole nother video, but briefly, like you got to have a rule system in place. You can't make the same mistakes that you made before. You have to handle your overall fear of dying and death, make a better relationship with it anyways, change your perspective on it. I started to do that. I started to fear not living and dealing with this anxiety more than actually dying, because that's inevitable. It is going to happen. And I don't want to waste the next 50, 60 years in this horrible cycle and then just me regret it all, right? So that was something that had to change. My lifestyle had to change. I had to work on my root causes, my health and all that stuff, and exercise. So many great things happened because of my anxiety. I want you to always understand that. Like, you're going to find a lot of blessings in disguise along this journey to recovery. And guys, if you want more help with your recovery process, my course, Elite Anxiety Bootcamp, is down below in the description and in the first pinned comment. It's been helping a lot of people. I'm going to read you a review real quick. I did the boot camp. It works. Follow it all the way through and do the work. You will get better. Good luck. You got this. So be a part of that, guys. It's helping a lot of people. My one-on-one coaching info is down there. There's a link for online therapy, my socials. Please like this video if you got value. And again, leave a comment. Let us know your journey and where you're at right now in your process. Share any tips or any advice that you have for the other viewers. And subscribe if you're new, guys. Until next time, keep fighting.